Hey, it's Detoroit Bob. I'm back at RPM Records. Why? Because it's a great record store. Also, they got a dedicated 45 room. Now, I'm looking for something called Northern Soul, and so far I've pulled a couple dozen Northern Soul classics out of that room. Plus, last time I missed a couple, and good thing Jeff and Kevin pointed it out. So I'm gonna start to see if I can find it. Hopefully it's still there. So we're gonna do the letter M, and we're gonna go back, see if I can find that letter L Northern Soul that I missed. Come on in with me. All right, this is a great shop. You got Tim, you got DJ, you got Riley, you got Cade, and even the dog Leland. And get the vibe. What's up, Cade? Picking up with letter M. Working my way through the alphabet. All right, cool. What's up, Riley? Back again. All right, so you know the drill. Here's the room. And you guys are really going to like this. I'm going to shut up this episode. And because I get tagged on these copyright violations. So, you know, you get Gary Lewis or Jerry Lewis's kids. Somewhere, I was talking so much, I missed it. And then I screwed up. I said something was Alvin Lee, and it was Albert Lee, and then screwed up with a Dave Matthews. I was talking to try to beat the actual copyright tag. So I got so lost and so confused that I just missed some good stuff. So I'm going to shut up, and if I have to do a voiceover, so be it. So let's go and look for Gary Lewis. A quick review of the gear. Here's the list, and it was written by Kev Roberts, and I think this guy is the same Kevin Roberts that comments and messages me, but it was published in Goldmine in 2000, so it's 25 years old. So there you go. I don't know anything about Northern Soul except what I've learned since I've been collecting 45s. So if I'm lost without a list, but this is nice because it's alphabetized. And as you see, this room is alphabetized. So apparently I missed Gary Lewis and the Playboys. Now, if you've seen Gary Lewis or heard Gary Lewis, I would last suspect him to be on any type of soul list, let alone Northern Soul. But there he is, right there. So we're gonna pick up with Gary Lewis, and then he wanted me to get all the Little Anthony's, even though they didn't have the two on the NS list. So you can see how this is helpful. A pair of readers. This is more for outdoors, for shooting scenes, non-prescription, an extra camera that if you got a buddy with you. I shoot everything in 4K, and this chest harness is crucial because it keeps both of my hands free while I'm, looking for Northern Soul records. And a good backpack. Now this Swiss gear, I can get 145s in there and throw in an overhead compartment on a plane. Try doing that with 100 LPs. So that's my basic Detoroit Bob hunting gear. I rarely have to throw something on the turntable, but if I do, they got one right here. This is just a daunting task, but I'm gonna keep doing it. So I know some of you guys get pissed off because I miss shit, but just be patient. I'm gonna keep going and try to find you guys some Northern Soul. All right, we got the mission, find Gary Lewis. And there he is right there, Gary Lewis and the Playboys, My Heart's a Symphony. That's on Liberty. And like I said, last time I was talking so much that I just zoomed past it. A couple of the reasons I was trying to explain is when you're recording live, the recording picks up the music that's playing in the record store. That gets dinged on YouTube as a copyright violation. So I'm monetized, which is sort of a joke because I get pennies per hour for what I spent doing these things. But there's a nice picture sleeve or a company sleeve right there. It's probably a birth sleeve. So I've been using that term. I always used company sleeve, but then Manship started his videos using that term birth sleeve, and that's just really clean. The era of the sleeve matches the era of the record label itself. And once you start collecting those things, it's almost hard to buy something in a brown or a white sleeve. So you really start to look for those. I'm at the point now, like, if it's not in a company sleeve, even better yet, a birth sleeve or a picture sleeve, I don't even necessarily pull it when I'm in these huge lots, where it's just a big bag or box full of records. So that's what normally I do. But here we're looking for Gary Lewis, Hearts of Symphony, and let's get started. And some of these, the B-sides are a little obscure, so I don't know, this could be a B-side. It could be a Northern Soul that was a B-side. So even though I'm checking the A-side, sometimes you get a pressing where the A-side is always the same B-side. Sometimes you get a different mix-up. But, if I'm on a Liberty, I'm going to flip it over and look at both sides. So that's why I'm taking my time. And I screwed up last time by going too fast and not paying attention. So I'm not talking live, I'm talking after the fact here, which is probably better off in this situation. And they're playing Diana Ross and the Supremes, so I would get dinged on that. So I got to turn the volume or talk over. So that's what we're doing here. The next thing you run into is a problem called dead air. So there's a nice matching company sleeve. But dead air is when you have video but no audio because you hit mute to beat the copyright. But I'll probably throw in some music reference. So there he is, Gary Lewis, the last guy you would expect to be at a Northern Soul list. Just a Clown, I think, is one of his songs. All these songs, we used to hear them on what we have called oldies channels here in the States. Chicago had one, 104.3, and it was Dick Biondi, the main DJ there. And by the way, he was the first DJ to ever play the Beatles in the U.S., Chicago. I think it was WLS, and it was the Beatles 498. It was a flop. It was on VJ Records, Please Please Me. And, it was that record right there is sort of my holy grail. But that's Gary Lewis, not to be confused with his father, Jerry Lewis, the comedian. So, interesting guy. Gary Lewis probably, grew up. I guess the mom sort of knew that he was playing the drums, so she sort of snuck off and got him a drum kit when he was about 15. And before you know it, hey, the kid down the street, some kind of producer or something in the neighborhood, hey, the kid's pretty good, and he got a record deal. So it doesn't look like, Jerry, his famous Hollywood father, comedian, former singing and entertainment partner of Dean Martin, went into the ABC studios or Liberty studios and banged on the door, hey, sign my kid. It doesn't look like that's the way it went down. And he did a stint in the Army. I think he, did a year or two in Vietnam in the middle of his career. So I don't think he was your typical Hollywood brat. Last I saw, he's still touring. So you see him on these oldies acts. I think he was on that billing out at Shipshawana, that 60s love tour that's been going around the last few years. But anyways, looking for it. I'm sort of panicking at this point because I'm not finding it. And there you go. There's Gary. Nerdy little white red cardigan sweater. But these are probably 65, 66, 67. So that's, this isn't the hippie era yet. So this is what you're getting. And once again, this search is driven by some subscribers. So we got Jeffrey in Maryland. I think it's Kevin in the UK. It's like some hardcore Northern Soul guy. I don't think he's the same guy who wrote the list. I thought he was at first. But there's a Kevin Roberts and a Kevin Morris. I don't really... there's Gary. Not to be confused with Gary. So I do get distracted. But I'm starting to panic a little bit because my worst fear was someone watches the video and then goes back, buys the 3 that I missed based on reading the comments. And that's what I'm thinking at this point right now. So I'm looking, and I'm not seeing it. So hopefully it's at the end, And by the way, I'll pull all the other L's in between that I see. I'll go back, and if I see something cool, I'll pull it. And I'm going to do M's too, but I probably won't get to them in this video. As a matter of fact, I did them on the same stops, but that'll be its own separate video. There were a lot of M's on the Northern Soul list. So there's the nice picture sleeve, and, pretty cool. Sometimes the picture sleeve will have the A side on one side of the picture sleeve as the lead song, and then the B side on the opposite. I noticed that. Well, there you go, right there. My Heart's a Symphony. That's the one. So now I'm like happy, jumping out of my skin, happy, and there's 2 right there. A little different font though, so it's probably a different pressing from a different plant. And I'll go through these at the end. Condition, decent. They're going for $3 or $4, and they'll give me a deal up front. So I'll probably get 20-30% off. I don't know. Depends. Cade. Riley seems to give me a little bit better deal than Cade, though. So we'll see about that. But anyways, yeah, if I just get these 2, but there's supposedly a 3rd with, I think, a picture sleeve. And I don't know that yet, but let's see if we can find that. So, mission accomplished at this point. And now I'm just being extra careful. There's Gary cleaning up his act. Got a nice suit on now. And I just don't want to miss one again. So if there's a 3rd one, I want to find it. I want to get out of there. That would be the icing on the cake. I've got all day, and I'm not in a hurry on this trip. I'm not distracted. I'm not doing live voiceover. There isn't Ozzy blaring at full volume, but I still have to do a voiceover because Diana Ross and the Supremes was playing. I could throw some cheesy music in there. There it is. There it is. Okay, so decent looking picture sleeve. I think it's a time capsule. It's sort of cool, sort of the nerdy, pre-hippie era, I should say. And who knows, if these guys were based out of the LA area, I think, the whole hippie scene, Summer of Love, 67, go back to 66 with, Family Dog and the Dead, and those guys were playing early Fillmore shows, and that was real more of a San Francisco scene. But you see some of those guys are, they didn't get long hair until later, late 60s, early 70s. So I'm just being complete now and looking through the stack, and that's about it, man. I think with this exercise of going A to Z, I will learn more about Northern Soul. I think Chip's got a book out there. I'll probably read that over the winter. I tried to find it here stateside, and it was just like used. It was like $400. I'm not going to pay that much for a book. But it is a good exercise to use a list. I think that's the ultimate goal, is to give yourself a short, middle, and long-term sort of collecting strategy. One guy said, this is a very weird way to collect records. Well, you got to remember, for the first 3-4 years, it was, I like that song. And then I found out, not every song that I like has any value. So I started looking more. There he is, right there. Gary Lewis and the Playboys. And drummer singer, you don't see that a lot. Don Henley. Who else is a drummer singer? He's a cleaned up, nice looking guy in a suit, just my style. That was the big hit. I always played that on Oldies 104.3 with Dick Biondi. I met Dick Biondi. We were driving down the road listening to Oldies 104.3, me and my son, and he said, hey, we're here at such and such car sales, and I'm like, hey, that's right up the road. So we pulled in, and they were doing a live. Look at the nice company sleeve, matching Liberty logo, period, is the same. It's probably a birth sleeve. The only thing that throws me off is that little sticker on the label there, which tells me that was, tagged, but it probably is a birth sleeve. But that's Gary Lewis. But anyways, Dick Biondi, yeah, we met him. We pulled over, and he asked a trivia question. Who is Reginald Dwight? And I think that's his name, right? And answer. There you go. Let's wrap this up. All right, mission accomplished. I got all 3 copies, one with a picture sleeve. So just making sure I didn't miss anything. Let's wrap it up and get out of here. The next thing is packing up the gear and going up and striking the deal. So you should have in your mind how much you're prepared to spend, what your offer is going to be, and what they're going to counter with. All right, I think I'm ready. Yeah, this guy, he gives me better prices.
Yeah. I try my best here, man.
Okay.
I don't want to get in trouble.
No, you're good. Been getting a lot of good feedback on the videos, so hopefully it'll start banging. Yeah, we want Cade. Yeah. They like Riley, but Cade is, he's like a box office hit.
They want the young guy.
Yeah.
We just pay him to look good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You guys, on the day I come in, you got to have your hair with product and all, fresh from the barber, I ended up going out to that DJ night and saw Dusty Staircase, yeah. It was sort of weird because I got there and there was like some interpretive dance from ballerinas dancing to Queen. Okay, cool. Let me get you paid up here. This is the alarm. Whenever she gets within 50 feet, it triggers an alarm.
That's funny, man.
I was up in the UP last weekend, and normally I go to Traverse City, and they go, yeah, is that one, the big record store? I'm like, yeah. The guy goes, yeah, I've been there. Oh, so you Tone Music in Marquette, they know about you guys.
Sweet.
So I definitely dropped, and it was pretty small shop. They didn't have a 45 room or anything like that. Yeah. But I definitely dropped your name, and
appreciate that.
I did as a matter of fact, that episode dropped today. It's a short little 30-minute one.
Check it out, man.
All right, cool. See you guys later. Perfect timing. Here she is. All right, we got out of there. The wife's ready to pick me up. Let's get in the Cadillac and call it a day. How's it going?
Pretty good.
So you got the White Claw?
I got everything. Let me answer the stats real quick.
All right, I got a pretty good deal. Cade gave me a good price. Riley was there. I'm like, hey, he always gives me a better price.
Right.
All right, we're calling this episode the Northern Soul reboot for the letter L. Because you remember, I went to RPM Records, and I got out of there, and I screwed up 2 different records, at least, in terms of I gave you guys some bad information. And the beauty of this system that I've got going, I'm getting great feedback. And I got to point out, I think it's Kevin and Jeffrey, but Kevin Morris, I think he might be the guy that wrote that list, that Northern Soul. But he's been contacting me regularly, telling me when praising me when I do good and punishing me when I do bad. But I deserve the punishment on this one. This is not the Shorty Long from Motown, okay? What caught my eye with this was the white label, okay, not for sale, so it's a promo, 1 color. So you get a white label with black ink. This stamping really caught my eye. Shorty Long. There's at least 3 Shorty Longs with Discogs. So an astute listener said, you know, hey, a little knowledge goes a long way. So this is not Function to the Junction Motown Shorty Long. This is another dude. He was like, I think he's a country singer, but maybe even Tex-Mex. But I'll show his picture. So anyways, I still got Perez Prado on the B side, and so I thought it was a cool looking record. It ended up being like an $8 record. So there you go. It's sort of unusual. It's an EP. So you got a couple songs, and you got your Perez Prado. You know, Mambo number 5. I think he wrote that. But he's definitely a Cubo Latin, I would call him. And I don't know if I'm 100% right on that either, but definitely a cool record. But I gave you guys some bad information. That's not the same Shorty Long. Number 2, Albert Lee is not Alvin Lee, okay? Alvin Lee played at Woodstock. Albert Lee, I'll have to look him up, but let me give you some more information on Albert Lee. All right, so here he is. Albert Lee is a English guitarist, keyboard singer, born in 1943 from, now I'm gonna butcher this, Lingen, Herefordshire. So not the same guy coming home, going home, the wild man from Woodstock 10 years after Alvin Lee. So I made that mistake. So there you go, mistake corrected. The problem is I was trying to beat the censorship with talking continuously, and I lost my train of thought, and I was just, that's what happens when you go unscripted and you're just spewing stream of consciousness. When you're looking for records, you got to sort of concentrate. And when you're trying to talk over, because that was the day Ozzy died and they were playing Ozzy Osbourne continuously. Sure enough, even with all the talking, I had to edit out 6 Ozzy songs. They have a post-production edit feature that you can do, but it takes an hour per song. So 6 hours of sitting there and saying, yes, would you like to edit this out? Yes, yes, yes. And then waiting for each song to finish. I don't have that kind of time. So, but the thing is, I didn't beat I didn't beat the edit anyways. So, you know, the point is the talking over. Sometimes when you're doing like Spotify or Shazam or whatever, and you're talking, you know, it doesn't pick up the song. So I was thinking it would work that way, but it didn't. Long story short, different guy, still a cool record. Not worth a whole heck of a lot, but I'm glad I got it. Then, in the mail, the day I go back to RPM to finish the letter L, here comes this, because if you remember, I was looking for a record for Caledonia Kev, and Heartbreaker was the name of the record by Ryan Adams, not to be confused with Bryan Adams. But I went to the show with the wife, and so I bought it online, and I always look to see if when I buy a record, does the guy have anything else in my want list? And he had this interesting little record. It's $30 I paid, but no shipping for a Japanese release in near mint. Look at how clean that is. So there you go, Creedence Clearwater Revival. There's John Fogerty. I think that's his brother Tom. I don't know the 2 other guys, but they're incredible rhythm section. Typical Japanese packaging with the lyrics. You got Bad Moon Rising, Proud Mary, Susie Q, and I Put a Spell on You. So that's check this out, man. It's in near mint condition. That's a 33 1/3 RPM 7-inch. So it's technically, like, I think technically could be called an LP because it's the 33 1/3 speed. So is there such a thing as 7-inch LPs? Yeah, this is one right here. It says LP right there. I would still call it a 33 1/3 7-inch on Liberty, great condition. And when you're ordering for Japan, you're going to pay at least $25, $35 shipping. So no shipping on this because I was already paying the shipping for the Heartbreaker LP. But Kev was very happy, and the funny thing is, when he opened the Heartbreaker package, this was still in it. And he goes, "Oh, what's this?" I go, "That's mine." So I took it back from him. So there you go. That was the same day. Let's continue on. All right, here we go. And the letter L reboot episode, as I call it. So yeah, as soon as the episode dropped, Kevin Morris and Jeffrey, I mean, the comments, several of you guys just lit up. "You missed Gary Lewis." And "My Heart's a Symphony. You had it right in your hand. You had 3 of them. The hell's wrong with you, Detoroit Bob?" And I'm like, I don't know if I was tired, if I had brain fog, but like I said, I was just talking and talking and talking and trying to do real time narrative. That's the problem. You lose your focus and your concentration when you're trying to describe what you're doing, when you're doing it in real time, blah, 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 blah. So it's better off just on some of these, I'm gonna just mute the sound, post-production, and do a voiceover. Because like I said, Ozzy Osbourne was blaring. He had just died, and nothing wrong with that. I'm not gonna tell a record store to stop playing music because, oh, I'm filming, you know what I mean? So here it is, the Indianapolis pressing, "My Heart's a Symphony." You know, I would have not known this was Northern Soul in a million years. Gary Lewis is a guy we listened to on oldies. I think Just My Style. He had a few. I think Jerry Lewis's son. And then here's the other version. I can't remember what pressing this one is, but let me check on that. All right, it's a Shelly, a styrene. So that's what that is. And you can just tell, you know, it had a different font and everything. So you got to make sure that refers to your printing plant for you little leaguers out there. You got to make sure you just don't enter, you know, oh, this is just click. Yes, you got to have the right font, and it's got to look in the dead wax. But, you know, there he is. This is the nerdiest nerd. I think he was the drummer too. The last guy, skinny little white guy, the last guy you would expect to show up on a Northern Soul list. But there he is. And here's back to the Indianapolis pressing again. A nice picture sleeve, little staining, but I would still call that a very good, almost a very good plus without the staining. And there they are, man, the Playboys. So these guys were the Playboys, and there's little skinny little Gary Lewis. I'm quite sure he's Jerry Lewis's son. Correct me if I'm wrong. So Liberty, I think, was out of LA, so that would make sense, right? Jerry probably had some connections, and hey, my kid's into this rock and roll thing. Can you hook him up with a record deal? And they had some hits. And there you go. My Heart's a Symphony in the picture sleeve, and you already saw it. So hopefully mistake corrected. You know, the biggest thing that I was worried about was that I would go back there and someone had seen the episode and scooped them up. And they're anywhere from $6 to $12 records, but these would normally be like $2 to $3 records. So I did pretty good price-wise. And there you go. 3 more Northern Soul top 500 list. Right out of RPM Records. Mistake corrected. And we got these babies. You're going to have to check out my Discogs. Just look up Detoroit Bob on Discogs. You'll find it. And I got these, so you can see the value of all these on Discogs. So there you go. Another great episode. Thanks to RPM Records, Riley. And we got Cade up there. Cade gave me a pretty good deal on this reboot. And we got Letter M coming up. I dove into Letter M, but I'm going to just save that as a separate episode because we're going towards a shorter format. We came in at 29 minutes, and I realized I killed you on time on the Letter L. I appreciate all the patience and the love. And even some of the critiques, man, you know, that's what it's all about. Because if I don't learn from you guys, you know, this is just one mistake repeated over and over and over again. But you guys are sharp, man, especially you British dudes. You guys know your shit. So keep it coming. Spread the word. And we got Florida coming up again. We got another episode up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan coming up. We've got a couple odds and end episodes coming up. We're going to do Holland in the fall, and stay tuned. RockMine.